So Vimsy says that she is not an Islamophobe, right? I heard here that her name is Marwa. This guy basically just copied her video onto his site. I guess maybe he has permission to use her videos.
Comedy skits and basically talks about issues within Islam and religion overall. And I obviously have some videos talking about Islam and the issues that I've had with personally on my journey. Are you really going to tell me that?
That's fine. You have issues, okay? That's fine. But when you start promoting other people or leave their hate comments on your site, on your videos, in your comment section, then you are kind of promoting hate, which is a part of Islamophobia. Okay, that's my opinion. If you're leaving hate comments on your channel, then you're an Islamophobe.
Islam is an Islamophobe, really? It's just not true. I mean, there are certain things that I would
well,
do.
Because you say it's not true, it's just not true because you said so.
I've been standing against the hijab ban, but it's more than that. I would fight for any person that wants to live the way they.
It's more than that. Then you should delete all your negative comments on your site, on your channel. Delete all of the negative comments on your channel. Please do that. Put your money where your mouth is, you know. Ban hate speech like I did on my channel. I don't permit hate speech. I had hate speech against Jewish people because of some of my videos. Therefore, those people's comments were deleted. Okay. Maybe atheists should also do that if they're really serious about promoting peace and equality for everyone and all those good things.
Want to live. If a Muslim wants to wear the hijab, if they want to pray 5 times a day, if they want to live their life, I will always stand for their right to do that.
Yeah, it's not like they need your permission anyway.
Does interviews on his
That's very nice, but it's not enough.
To Muslims such as Shabir Ali,
I think you have to go a bit further than just putting yourself out there on YouTube and then saying all kinds of stuff like you know about Islam, but you rejected it. And when you don't know anything about Islam, in my opinion, I think you don't understand Islam. So first of all, go study more about Islam and then make videos about why you don't like Islam. There's an idea.
I was such a big fan of yours and I'm still a very big fan of yours, and there was so much mutual
like I said, that's just hypocritical.
I just don't think
in my opinion
would behave that way. It's all well and good you telling me I haven't done my research, but you haven't done your research. It's
all well and good.
So much
I love the way they use these little expressions. It's all well and good. You know, whatever that means.
Easier if I was a Muslim, by the way. Like, I've had a lot of comments also kind of say, oh, you're following your own desires and that sort of thing. You just want to do this or that. My
probably
life
are doing
so
that.
much harder as a non-Muslim because my entire
And that's a bunch of bull, okay? Go be a Muslim in Britain. You see how hard your life can get. Go be a Muslim in a non-Muslim country. Okay, you'd realize how difficult it is if you're actually trying to practice your religion. Okay? Which maybe you never did. Did you ever wear hijab? Did you ever, outwardly look like a Muslim at all? Because your father is an apostate. When did he apostatize? And how long have your family not been Muslims? And how hard can it be if you have this kind of support within your own family, right?
Is Muslim. My family are Muslim. My friends are Muslim. I still, as I talk about in my Why I Left Islam video, I'm still within this sort of bubble. So then he goes on to say,
they might also be very secular people. I'm thinking that's the case, right? So are they, Vimsy? Are they secularists anyway? And just Muslim by name only?
The amount of times you said, I think, showed that the problem was with yourself, sister. You wanted God to fit into your way of thinking and your subjective norms. Can you imagine what kind of God we would have if everyone wanted to shape into their desires? So for me to believe in
Well, that's what I agree with right there. It's true. Everyone has to fit into their way of thinking. You have to fall into the line of their thinking and you have to obey them. That's what they would really like. They don't want Muslims that believe in Islam and think for themselves. Muslims who think for themselves but disagree with them, right? They don't want that. They want Muslims who are permitted by them to wear hijab and make dawah, but only the kind of dawah that they want and that they will permit. Because eventually this is going to come to a head. It's not going to stay like nice, oh, we're peaceful atheists who just want to promote rights for everyone. No, that is not the case at all.
Religion and devote myself.
If they really cared about peace, they wouldn't permit themselves the luxury of making satire that totally insults the Prophet Muhammad, that Muslims hate, and just call that freedom of speech, and they think that that's the end of it and there should be no repercussions. We don't promote hate. We don't want to promote divisions, but that is what atheists are doing. They want our societies to divide. That's why they promote LGBT, apostates, and all kinds of things, bloggers and activists who are anti-government. Okay, many atheists and ex-Muslims, like Sarah Haider, are supporting those things.
Or people I've got to
like that.
Reconcile morality with the religion. Are you saying that the way to follow a religion is just with blind faith? Would you say that to anyone following religion? So
she doesn't understand what blind faith is, first of all. Right? Blind faith is that you trust that the things that you don't understand, which may be like 10% of your religion, you know, or things like miracles that you can't see with your own eyes. You can't prove that a miracle happened. You can't prove the splitting of the moon, right? Miracle. So you have blind faith that that is real because you already believe through sincere, thought and investigation that the 90% of what you believe to be true is indeed true. Okay? You can find even scientific evidence, although they reject this idea, you can find scientific evidence that aligns with what Muslims believe and what's in the Quran.
The Hindus, the Christians, the Jews, are you going to say, no, guys, you should just believe whatever, it has to be just faith. If it doesn't add up to what you believe, it doesn't
blind
matter.
Faith, they never understand what blind faith is. Try to understand things before you speak.
Okay, you just do what God says. There's no point of you doing da'wah to anyone because your understanding is that when you believe in a religion, you just follow regardless of whether or not you agree with it. So then he says, you sounded absolutely like Fox News.
He didn't say anything like
out of context statements, weak and fabricated hadiths, emotions, misconstructed statements, misquotations, misrepresentations, and the list goes on. I just think it's funny that the only thing they can come back with is that it's not true. It's like, no, it's not true. It's a misquotation. It's a misinterpretation. It's like,
no, Muslims also come back with real facts and real things, but atheists like to ignore those things. So that's not completely true what you're saying. The other thing is, when we say there is a weak hadith, we can't just lie and pretend that there is a weak hadith. We actually have to have a weak hadith. Okay, otherwise we'll just be quiet. If we think that you don't like something, we can zip our lip. We don't have to discuss sensitive topics. Okay, like the marriage of Aisha or something, radiallahu anha, things that people feel uncomfortable discussing. If we don't want to discuss those things, we can just avoid those discussions. But where there's proof, we can provide proof. It's no problem, right? Where we feel comfortable discussing something, we can discuss it. But it's not up to the non-Muslims to tell us what we have to talk about and what we have to
okay, guys, whatever I read or quote, it's like, yeah, but that is not a real quote, or no, that's weak, it's been fabricated.
See, there are weak hadiths, and if the hadith is weak or fabricated, then that's what it is. Okay, it's not something that we make up. This is from what scholars already know, and we get that information from them. It's not something every individual Muslim can just make up. You can't just cook up something. That would be wrong, okay? That would be lying about your religion. So we don't do that, right? See, so many things she doesn't know. She doesn't understand what the reality is, how things work. How do we know if something is true or not, and so on.
Out of context, you've got to see it. I'll put it down below. This is a prime example of what he's talking about in that video. The truth is, Muslims
She's saying that Ali Dawah made up something, or what did she say? Excuse me, I'll just go back. I think I just lost my internet. What happened? Okay. Don't tell me I have to go to her first video, the video he reacted to. Let's see. She makes another one. Are women oppressed in Islam? No, they are not oppressed. Okay? Maybe men oppress women. I might watch another video of this guy, but I don't really, I'm not really interested in watching Abdullah Samir. I've seen some of his comments. See, now they have a problem with the word Allah said. Why? Allah cannot say something. Muhammad said, Allah said. It's just like they don't think, this is all about, anyway, that's a different subject.
Then the list goes
on. Okay, getting off track. Get back on track here.
The only thing they can come back with is that it's not true. It's like, no, it's not true. It's a misquotation. It's a misinterpretation. It's like, okay, guys.
Oh, she's confused, definitely. Frustrated, definitely.
That is not a real quote.
But is she educated about Islam? No.
This seriously reminds me of my husband's video. Out of context, you've got to see it. I'll put it down below.
I'm sure it's hilarious.
This is a prime example of what he's talking about in that video. The truth is, Muslims can't agree on anything. I don't think there are two Muslims that fully agree on everything in Islam, because
that's not true.
Okay,
that's a bunch of bull.
I follow this interpretation. I follow this madhab.
Yeah, people follow a different madhab. What is wrong with that? Because she doesn't understand anything about what a madhab is for. How did the madhabs originate, and why do we still have madhabs today? Ask a scholar if you really want to know, if you want to learn something. Okay? If you're sincere and want real knowledge about Islam, which you claim you already have, then go ask a scholar if you really want to know. She has so many questions which she has no answers to yet, and yet she's making videos, anti-Islamic videos, right?
Stand it this way. There's so many different ways of seeing it.
Yes.
Just for a couple of examples, I know that some people don't believe that Aisha was, 9 or 6, she wasn't a child. Some people say that she was like...
Well, that's just if they don't accept the hadiths. But Muslims are supposed to accept the hadiths, right? Or maybe people are embarrassed, so, we say stuff like, not every Muslim believes that. That's just a coded way of saying that I don't want to talk about this. So do we have to talk about things that you want to talk about? Maybe we're embarrassed and we don't want to talk about this. There are Muslims that are weak and just don't have the guts to say the truth. We can just tell you the hadith, say this is in Bukhari and it said she was 9, and that's the end of it. That doesn't mean we're saying people should marry 9-year-olds too. Okay, so people should not really shy away from the question, or if you dislike the question that much, yes, you can just ignore it, right?
20s, early 20s, I would say she was 16, and they all have their own evidences. Scholars
there is different people that
way. Also,
yes, because there are different hadiths, but the majority say that she was 9, but so it needs more investigation. The fact that Muslims really want to know, I think, is a good thing, okay? But they're not promoting pedophilia. They're not saying girls today should be married off at age 10 or age 9. And also, people have changed so much, and the culture and what we think is acceptable has changed, right? But it's not only that. This was 1,500 years ago almost. Imagine what human beings will be like in another 1400 years. If you look at old photographs of people now today, if you see people 100 years ago, um, they did look different. People today have to remove their wisdom teeth, and I'm pretty sure that was not the case even 150 years ago, because how would they have done that in those days? It has to do with the food that we eat today as compared to 150 years ago. And who knows what the food was like 1,000 years ago. And another thing is, also anthropologists tell us that domestication of animals also had an effect on humans. And the first people to domesticate animals were Persians, so in the area around Iran, obviously, and also Arabs and Jews, so the Semitic peoples, right? And people traveled across the land bridge later on and actually remained there for about 10,000 years before they migrated all the way to North America. Those people had already evolved by that time, different skin color and so on. And you never know, maybe their stature also changed, or their bone structure and different things. So this is not beyond reasonable thinking, and I don't think it's beyond reasonable or logical to presume that Arabs 1500 or 1400 years ago were of a different stature, or were had some physical, physiognomical differences from what we see today. And that's just I think that's something to think about. I don't think we should just, and even mentally, were women or young girls capable of marriage in those days? Not just physically, but were they mentally ready? So, we hear about these grooming gangs in Europe, right? In the UK. But to be honest, it was always the job of parents or society to groom their children before. We didn't have these problems of gangs taking away young girls or boys, or this problem of white slavery the way that it exists now. So people raised their own children in a way they saw fit, and I'm sure part of that was grooming your own children so that they could be ready for marriage. Okay, and that might have happened at a young age, okay, for the children. You see today in videos, you can see videos like Baby Boo, she's how old, and she's saying that she has gay friends and so on. And these are children, literally small children, in grade school or kindergarten. Okay, so let's get up in arms about that instead of worrying about a girl who was married and happily married at that 1440 years ago.
I made the point about the prophet.
Let's talk about children's rights today instead of worrying about ancient history.
He would go to war and give people three options and say either you have to convert to Islam or you have to pay the jizya, which is like a tax if you want.
Oh, it's so terrible to pay tax. Again, I made a video about this. You're paying taxes because you don't want to contribute to protecting the country where you are living. So if a man has no guts and no shame and doesn't want to defend his own family from attacks by their enemies, these are the country's enemies, the country where you are living. If you don't have the guts, or the ability to fight, then you could pay tax. Actually, even if you're physically unable to fight, then you don't pay any tax. But what does she want? Should a Muslim country not have an army? Is that what you want? So they're completely open to attack anytime, and their women and children could be enslaved and so on. This is totally illogical. It's not an argument at all. And the other thing is, I mentioned this in a comment. I think I made a video yesterday, that these non-Muslims, actually the jizya gives them a chance to opt out of fighting if they are pacifists, for example, or for any reason that they don't want to fight. For example, some people like some Buddhists, people who whose religion forbids fighting or killing. Fine, then you have a religious and your freedom of religion and freedom of conscience is protected. All you have to do is pay this small amount of money yearly. That's it. It is not a huge tax. Educate yourself about what taxes was like in Europe before, a couple of 100 years ago or 1,000 years ago. You know, it was so bad that every window in a poor person's house had to be shuttered or closed off if they couldn't afford to let in sunlight, because sunlight was taxed. So let's see how Islam compares to European laws, and how Islam compares to life in Europe before.
Remain your own religion, or you will die. Now, some people don't like to believe that.
Even by today's standards, the taxes in Muslim countries has been next to nothing compared to what Americans and Canadians or Europeans and what have you, compared to their taxes. All the food taxes that they've had for decades, all the taxes that they've had for probably hundreds of years.
They'll say, no, that's just fabricated, that's not how it happened, this is how it happened.
Not to mention interest, loans, and all this other stuff that non-Muslims have to deal with, which, alhamdulillah, Islam prevented. And also another benefit of Islam, the Islam gave to non-Muslims, was, for example, that Islam prevented the animosity that exists between Jewish people and others, because Muslims were prevented from borrowing money. So whether you want to believe that Jews were moneylenders or not, or extremely greedy, like some people even still today believe, whatever the case may be, Islam prevented this great animosity that exists, prevented Muslims from that sort of relationship where they were indebted to someone huge amounts of money because of interest. Okay, and today we still can avoid these grave problems, that not only is it haram to borrow money with interest, but it can wreck your whole life in some cases.
Circles discussing these kinds of things. The point is,
discussing these kinds of things. She doesn't discuss anything with any kind of credible line of argument or evidence. She doesn't quote anything. It's just blah blah blah, waving her arms around and just, saying stuff.
These little things were just part of my journey. As I said in my video,
these little things. And what else was part of your journey? Taking off hijabs and just giving up on Islam?
On their own or individually. The final straw was the entire picture of the religion.
Yes, because you don't understand the entire picture. Okay, you have some kind of blinders on and you cannot see. Allah says they are deaf, dumb, and blind. Okay, or blind, deaf, and dumb. Okay, and they cannot see. Okay, they cannot see here, meaning they do not see the truth. They do not want to hear the truth. Okay, and their hearts are closed. Therefore, they are blind, deaf, and dumb in a spiritual sense. And dumb meaning they cannot speak the truth. Okay, that is what being spiritually dumb really means. You cannot speak the truth because neither can you see or hear the truth. Therefore, how can you possibly speak the truth?